What's up, y'all? We're back again. Thank you for listening to the Shine Time Podcast. This is episode 2. We still don't have a guest yet. I've got a few lined up, a few I'm talking to. One, we couldn't get our timings down for this weekend, but hopefully he'll be able to do it next weekend or sometime really soon. But I've got a few people lined up, so it's just me for today again, but I think we'll get some good content out of this episode. I've got some topics lined up to talk about that I think few of my typical followers will find interesting or will at least get some value out of. So let's start like we always do. Liquor or lightning? That's the first question always. Usually it'll be for the guest and myself, but today it's just for me. So since last episode I chose liquor, sipped on liquor during the episode, this time I'm choosing lightning. And don't get too excited. It ain't that crazy. It's just caffeine. That's what I mean by lightning. But this time we've got Starbucks Nitro Cold Brew. And this is actually not flavored or sweetened. This one is black. I've got a few flavors in there in the mini fridge. For those of you watching on video to my right, or your left, my right. But the black is pretty tough. Kind of tastes like something like motor oil, which is great. That's always fun. I'm not one that's too picky on flavor, so we'll get this thing rolling. Today's lightning episode for me. The next section of the podcast, this is something new that I didn't talk about last time I'm going to add in. So this is going to be trivia at the beginning that I do with the guest every time. Not every time. Excuse me. Let me correct that. Only when they choose liquor. When they choose liquor, we're going to do trivia. And if I'm going to give them 5 trivia questions. If they get one of them or 2 of them right, they got to take 2 shots. If they only get 3 or 4 of them right, we each take 1 shot. But if they get all 5 of them right, I'll take a shot. So it's a gamble. Hopefully everyone's down to play. It'll definitely get things rolling if they have to take 2 shots in the beginning. And the only reason I'm not going to take 2 shots if they get all 5 right is because I'm the host and I kind of feel like it's my responsibility to rein things in and keep things rolling at a good pace and not get too far off topic and remember the structure of the show. So that's the trivia section. But we're not going to do that today, obviously, because it's just me and I'm doing caffeine. So now, moving on, we've got the check-in. As always, check-in for the mind and the body, 1 to 10 scale. What is the rating? And so for me being single and everything else going on in my life, I'm pretty high up there. There's not anything too devastating going on. Just overall happy, and I'm in a good mental space. I'm driven right now. I'm in a new gym. I'll touch on that later. But yeah, things are going great mentally, and then body-wise, I know last week I talked about having a foot injury I had been dealing with. It hasn't felt bad at all this week. I haven't felt like I've had a prior foot injury at all. My left knee feels a little off, feels a little loose. And for those of you who lift or play sports, y'all know that's kind of a scary feeling. Like you feel like something might go wrong if you push it too hard. So for some reason this week my left knee has felt loose. And so I actually had been on a good stretch of doing a lot of structural strengthening for the small muscles around the knee, which I got from an Instagram page, which is a great follow for you guys. This is a good value add to the podcast. A guy whose Instagram handle is knees over toes guy, and I'll put that on the screen in case you can't decipher how to spell it from me saying it here. But he's great as far as adding value to anyone who deals with knee, ankle, hip, lower extremities for sports or anything like that. He puts a lot of info out on his page, a lot of good exercises, and he also has programs you can purchase, and they're not very expensive either. But I don't want to go too much off on a tangent, but I'd like to shout him out because I feel like he's helped me a lot. And it probably sounds funny because I'm saying my knee feels loose, but I've found that guy who's been helping me a lot lately. But what I want to stress in that scenario is I've actually, in this new gym that I've been going to, I've been wanting to try all the new machines, all the new equipment, exercises that I can do that I didn't have at my old gym. So when that comes into play, sometimes I find myself at least getting a little bit out of rhythm with the things that are my staples that keep me tight and healthy, and the way that things should be, moving smooth and strong and joints healthy and everything. So I've kind of steered away from those exercises that I learned from him lately in trying those new machines and equipment. So now I need to get back on that and make sure I'm keeping the knees healthy, especially since they've given me slight issues over the past. Body-wise, to give a score, I'm going to say I'm a 9 because there's nothing really hurting or any damage that I know of. Mind is a 9, body's a 9. All right, moving on to the next section. Let's just do some sports updates. Let's talk about my teams real quick for those who are interested, because I know, being an Arkansas alumni, I know I probably have some people out there who follow me that went to the University of Arkansas with me. I actually know I have some out there. And then Steelers fans, I know I have some of y'all out there too, so y'all might be a little interested in this. And both have pretty decent fan bases, especially the Steelers. The Steelers fan base spans across the world pretty much. So what I will say is the Steelers are in a pretty bad situation, in my opinion. So we lost today to the Bengals, which we don't do very often, first of all. All credit in the world to them, but we did have T.J. Watt out. We had Deontay Johnson, a receiver, out. We had Highsmith out, which is another down lineman or slash linebacker. Smith-Schuster left the game at one point with I think a rib injury. But other than that, I wasn't able to actually watch the game because it wasn't showing here, and I didn't go to a sports bar or anything to watch, but I was keeping tabs real close with my dad on it and a few friends. A few of my friends are Bengals fans and gave me a pretty tough time, but all is fair in love and football. So I give them a hard time too, so they can openly give me a hard time. So I don't know. I think Roethlisberger's on his last leg and he needs to go. I could get all kinds of deep into the weeds of the Steelers, but I think Roethlisberger, it's his time. He needs to go. He needs to be open to going and make it smooth for the team and a smooth transition. The Steelers have treated him well. They've kept him around longer than they had to, longer than most teams do. Send him off on his way in a really prestigious manner, or keep him around for one more year, and hopefully he'll do it for really cheap, and we can get a new quarterback in for 1 year that he can at least mentor for our system. That's my hopes. We really need to do something with our offensive line for whoever we do get in there as QB. So, okay, now I know not everybody's a Steelers fan or a Hogs fan, so I won't harp on this stuff too much. But now moving on to the Hogs, man, we have turned things around. The Razorback Nation has had it tough in the previous, I'd say, almost 10 years. Yeah, roughly 10 years, because when I was a freshman there, we were amazing. We were top 10. I think we made it to top 5 in the nation. And then my sophomore year, junior year, senior year was really sketchy, and we didn't do that well. We had lost our coach, Bobby Petrino. Things went downhill from there, and we're trying to pick them back up. And, man, we just surged this year. Last year we had some great upsets. But everybody knew it was our new coach's first year, Sam Pittman. But this year, we've already beat 3 ranked teams, and we're, I think, 4 games into the season. We beat Texas, and then we also beat Texas A&M, which is amazing for our recruiting. When it comes to recruiting out of Texas, that's a big thing for Arkansas. We need a lot of Texas talent because we're right on the border. And when you beat two of the high-level Texas teams, it does a lot for your recruiting. So that's great for us. I'm not going to harp too much on it, but we've been playing really, really well. I think we'll be top 10 in the AP. Let's get into some value add for the listeners, because I know that's what most of y'all are here for, and I don't want you to ever leave these podcasts thinking that you didn't get either some new information or at least a reminder of information you already knew that it's great to be reminded of. Since I'm a big into the health and fitness community, I feel like it was an easy topic. It was some low-hanging fruit for me to hit on. So I'm going to give 3 tips for beginners in the gym, and then I'm also going to give 3 tips for people that I think are pretty avid lifters, pretty experienced lifters. So we'll start with the beginners. First tip that I'd like to give beginner lifters out there is to learn correct form. So if you're just getting into the lifting game, you've got to understand that this is kind of like a lifelong journey. You never want it to be, I'm dieting for this moment, and then from there on, I just go back to whatever I was doing before. You don't ever want it to be like that. You want it to be a lifestyle change, because then it's going to become habits and staples in your life, the things that you do, and it's going to just carry on. It's going to be so much easier after that. I mean, it becomes a negative thing when you miss the gym once you make it such habit that it bothers you when you don't go, So that's how it's become for me. And the first tip that I would give is to make sure your form is great, because that base that you have in the gym, that base of whatever you start doing, it matters so much. And I'm going to tell you why. So, for example, say you start bench pressing, and your bench, for those of you who can see me on camera, is a little bit lopsided. So maybe your left shoulder or right shoulder is higher than the other, so it's not even here. It's a little bit raised on one side. And say you don't have anybody that's around you that feels like they can correct you, or you don't correct it yourself, you don't pay attention to it, and then you get 5 years into the game, 5 years into the lifting game, and you've made a lot of great gains, and then you probably gained some weight, you gotten stronger, things like that, you've learned a lot, but yet then someday somebody tells you that your bench press, when you do it, you're a little bit off and you're not straight. First of all, over those 5 years, you're going to have developed muscles that are used to lifting in that way. So when you're lifting in that way and then you try to change it, it's going to shock your muscles a little bit. They're not going to be used to it. There's a chance you get hurt. And then also there's a chance that your body never adapts. There's some little small things that I first did when I was lifting in high school football that they just didn't correct us or teach us the right way to the right form in these lifts, that still to this day I have to work really hard and focus my mind on doing them differently and doing them the correct, proper form. And so don't get in habits of doing things the wrong way just because you can get away with it when no one's looking, and then do it for years on end, because whatever you do in the beginning is going to be your base. So that's my first thing, is learn correct form and stick with it and make that something that's very important to you that you do every time. Okay, and then also build your base with your compound lifts. So you want to build a base of your larger muscle groups being stronger in some very staple lifts when it comes to bodybuilding or lifting in general. It's not just bodybuilding, but anyone who wants to lift in general. It could be for athletics, could be CrossFit, could be bodybuilding, any of those. You want to make sure that your bench press is solid, your deadlift is solid, your squat is solid, maybe some military press. Those are kind of like powerlifting staples, but not really military press, but the others are. Those are some things that are going to build your foundation and make your larger muscle groups gain a lot of strength and size in the beginning. And everything else you can build off of from there. Don't get tied up in the Instagram, the crazy... there's this new exercise where a guy's got dumbbells in his hand and he's jumping off of an exercise ball onto a platform, and just you're gonna, for one, a lot of those guys are avid lifters. Two, there's a high chance of you getting injured and hurt. It looks great on camera, yeah, but how many times did that guy mess up? And then how many people messed up and didn't post it because they got injured, or they end up on some gym fail page? Just don't be that guy. Focus on the basics in the beginning. And then later down the road, when you're an avid lifter, if you want to do those things, then you can do those things. Okay, so third tip for beginner lifters, to learn about nutrition. This one kind of differs depending on where you're at in your life, how old you are. So for me, my opinion, if you're a young lifter, so say, and what I would consider a young lifter is if you're anywhere below the age of 25, nutrition is not as much important for you. It is very important. Trust me, it's very important. But you can get away with not as great of nutrition, and it's more about how much you eat when you're younger, assuming your metabolism is operating efficiently. If you're someone who deals with being heavier and you're young and you're below 25, well then, yeah, nutrition is extremely important for you, and that would be my third tip for you. But for those of you who are younger and you have a higher metabolism, where your metabolism works efficiently and you don't have to worry about holding excess weight for when you eat the wrong things, it doesn't matter as much for you. And for you, my third tip for you guys would be, and that I would fall into that category at that age. My third tip for you guys would be to take advantage of your newbie gains. Okay, so newbie gains, for those who aren't familiar, are when you first get into the lifting world. The gains you make then, that you fly up. Your strength flies up. If you're trying to gain weight, a lot of times your size flies up. If you're trying to lose weight, your weight goes down. When you make that change in your life to flip that switch from a sedentary lifestyle to an active lifestyle, you see the biggest changes. So take advantage of those moments and don't spoil them. Don't think, oh man, I'm making these gains and I'm not even having to work really hard, so I'm just going to keep half-assing it. No, don't do that, man. Take advantage. Trust me, because every lifter, once they get past that stage, wishes so bad that they could be back in that stage and make those gains really quickly. So take advantage of that. All right, now for the 3 tips for the avid lifters, for those who have been around the block a little bit. All right, and this includes myself. This is what I was thinking. What could I tell myself? Maybe even myself a couple years ago. But what could I use today? So one would be to stop avoiding recovery. A lot of guys I know, especially if they're not super deep into the details of lifting and being healthy, they just want to go in there and lift. They don't really care about much else. They just want to get in there and see how much they can bench press that day or whatever, squat that day, and that's just it. They kind of live their life however they want to when they leave there after that. I'm telling you, especially the older you get, and I'm starting to creep up on this age-wise because I'm 28 now, it matters more and more and more the older you get how much recovery you do. So I'm talking ice baths. I'm talking sauna. I'm talking stretching after you lift, not before you lift. I'm talking foam rolling, massage guns, getting massages. All of those things matter so much more as you get older. And not to mention, so something like a sauna is going to have a lot of health benefits anyways, but those other things are going to do a lot for you when it comes to keeping your joints healthy and your muscles healthy and not getting injured. Another thing that I'd like to add on to this, just a little tidbit, is warming up. People do not, I seriously think probably 95% of the people in the gym that I see do not warm up correctly. Warm up thoroughly. I'll probably do a video about that. I probably should do a YouTube video on how to warm up thoroughly because most people do not know how and they do not take it serious. And I'm telling you, the older you get, it's the reason for a lot of injuries. Okay. The second tip for avid lifters, try checking your ego at the door. I know it's tough. It's tough for me too. Try checking your ego at the door, dropping the weight down to something you can do pretty easily, and perfecting your form again. Because almost all of us, without realizing it, especially if you don't have a partner who's willing to tell you, we get a little bit out of form over the years. We start getting a little comfortable. We start thinking, man, I've been around the game so much. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to I don't need to pay too much attention to my form. I know how to contract the muscle. I know when I'm feeling it, this and that. Yeah, you say that, but would it not help you if you were to perfect the form again? Would it not help you if you were to, start from the ground up? I think it's always a good ego check when we do that. So lower the weight, start from the ground up again, and make sure all your mechanics are correct, and then slowly increase the weight from there. And I think it would keep a lot of us in line and a lot of us from developing impingements in our joints and our movements that keep us from getting to the peak of our health that we could. Okay, so last tip for the avid lifters: change your scenery. And this is one I mentioned earlier that I was going to touch on, as I just joined a new gym, and it's been a great thing mentally for me. So I had been in my gym for a couple years since I moved to Dallas, and I loved it there, Destination Dallas. I'm not throwing any shade at them. I enjoyed that gym. It was my home gym for a couple years. Still actually haven't canceled my membership there, but I probably will soon. I'm liking UFC Fit so much, and I have the membership where I can bring guests at Destination, and we're always having to pay for guest fees, and that's always annoying to everyone. But changing that scenery, it just gives you a new spark. You meet new people. There's new equipment. There's literally probably new color paint on the walls. There's just new machines. There's new trainers. There's new people. There's a new vibe. It's everything. There's a new location you're driving to. It kind of gets you out of that autopilot mode of just going to the same place every day. You're probably hitting the same machines for the same muscle groups every time. Get in a new atmosphere. And I didn't even think about, when I checked out UFC Fit, I didn't even think about the fact that a new atmosphere would be that cool. I just thought, let me go, check out this new gym because it seems pretty cool. But I didn't think it would affect me mentally in such a positive way as it has, and it really does. It was something that I hadn't thought about in a long time, is how much scenery affects you. So that's my third tip for the avid lifters. And now we're on to the middle section of the podcast. As always, it's the up or down, then circle around. So it's thumbs up or thumbs down on different topics or items or people. You give a thumbs up or thumbs down. Typically it's the guest. Today it's me. And then we circle back around to whatever topics we're going to talk about. So there is no explanation on why you gave thumbs up or thumbs down. You just got to leave it in the air. You got to give your answer up or down, and we move on. Maybe it'll spark some conversations in the comments. So for me today, picked out a bunch of random things. So the first one, white wine. Thumbs down. Mac computers. Thumbs up. Choosing unique names for your kids. Thumbs up. TikTok dances. Thumbs down. Paintball. Thumbs up. Bud Light. Thumbs down. Bolo ties. Thumbs down. Gender reveals. Thumbs up. All right, now we're circled back around. Last thing I wanted to touch on topic-wise is the 2020 impact. So what impact it had on me, and something that I felt like was really reiterated to me in my life. Something that I already knew, but, like I mentioned earlier, you kind of get in autopilot sometimes in life, and you need something to kind of throw cold water on your face, per se, to get you to wake up a little bit and remind you, hey, don't forget, this is one of your core values. This is one of the things you're not doing that you preach about, or this and that. So for me, what it reiterated to me was the lack of social interaction that I was having in my life. And so at the time I had a girlfriend. For those of you who remember, follow me, I was with my ex-girlfriend, Amanda. And she was a lot more of a social creature than me. And so she was a lot better at this than me, and props to her, because she would try to get me to be more social, and I was the one who would push back more on it. But for me, it's not that I don't like being social. I love being social, and I love going out, and I'm a pretty outgoing person myself. But the thing that I get stuck in, the rut that I get stuck in sometimes, and I don't even know it, is I'm so focused on what we're doing right now, part of my social media, my side hustles, my job, all the different things that I think will help me and benefit me and bring me, it's seeds that I plant that I feel like will grow and bring me back fruit in the future, And so I get so tied into those things that I feel like anytime I'm not doing those things, anytime I'm not working, anytime I'm not creating content, anytime I'm not at the gym, prepping, doing something that could bring me benefits back in the future, anytime I'm not doing those things, I feel like it's time wasted, and that's not always true. That's not always true at all. So it's something that I really need to be better at, and that I noticed in 2020, because I noticed the more that I was secluded from the world, even though I was already doing it to myself a little bit, the more that I was secluded from the world, the more unhappy it makes all of us. And it wasn't just a me thing. It wasn't just a Amanda thing, or me and Amanda, or anybody else that I talked to. It was everyone. It's not healthy for us to be in that situation. So family is super important. And I've always said that, and I've always felt that way. And I would never try to argue that it wasn't. but I wasn't putting it into place and putting it into action like I should have. And the more time that I've taken this past year or so and seen family, seen friends, traveled or had people travel to come see me, or gone out into events or social things, and balanced out how much I work versus how much I do that, gosh, I've seen my work ethic actually be better because of it, and I've been happier because of it. You just get you kind of ride on this high that you don't even realize you ride on when you get social interaction. You get to laugh with friends and cut up and maybe watch sports games or go to events or work out together or go eat together, just chill, hang out and do nothing sometimes. It's very healthy for us to do those things, and I'm kind of keeping myself accountable by telling you guys this. I admittingly didn't do as good of a job as I should have of that before. And so to my family too, I really, and hold me to it if you're listening, I plan on seeing all of you guys more of a staple in my life and more of a focus in my life moving forward. So something that maybe you guys feel the same way, maybe you don't, maybe it's not a problem for you, but I feel like it's a value add for some people out there probably, and something that I like to open up and talk about a little bit, because I feel like the more that we can connect, the more that you guys can feel like you know me, the better this whole podcast thing is going to go. Because I know when I watch podcasts and I really like them, really enjoy them, it's typically when I feel like I'm going to hang out with friends. When I turn on the podcast, I feel like, oh man, I haven't seen these guys in a little bit. It's almost like you're hanging out with friends, and that's kind of what I want this to be like. I want this to be a community of people who help each other grow. So that's the end of the podcast, guys. The last thing that I want to do, as usual, I want to spotlight somebody. So I want to shine that spotlight on somebody. And today it is my boy Kramer, who owns Whiskey Woodworks. So me and Kramer went to high school together. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, since we were probably 5 or 6 years old. And he's actually got a thriving company that's benefited him so much to where he was able to go full-time with it. And I'll put a few pictures here up on the screen of how badass this company is. So he creates cornhole boards, and he does all the carpentry and stuff himself. He does freehand painting, and he can do pretty much anything that you want on these cornhole boards. He puts lights on them. He'll put handles on them. He's made them for weddings. He's making some for, I don't know if I can say that. Yeah, actually, they know. So he's making some for my sister's wedding. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't letting the cat out of the bag on that one. And he's made some for me. He made me some Pittsburgh Steelers ones. He's made some for my dad, and a lot of people I know around the Memphis area. He's actually in Nashville, but he'll ship them too. So it's not just handing them off to you if you're in the area. But I'll put his Instagram on the screen. His cornhole boards are top notch, custom. And so check him out, guys. Great dude, great company, and I want to see them continue to be successful. So I figured I'd give him a shout out. But that is the end of episode 2 of the Shine Time Podcast, guys. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, though, give the podcast a thumbs up, the video a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel so that you can see every time I post a new episode. And I'd really appreciate it if you guys really enjoyed it. Just tell your friends about it. Tell them to come check it out. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. I'm here to add value for those who like the value that I think I'm adding. That's it, guys. I'm Chrome. I'm out.